The 12-team field will consist of the top 5 conference champions, followed by 7 at-large teams. So the 4th highest-ranked conference champions will receive a first-round bye, while the other 8 teams will play in the first round with the higher seeds hosting the lower seeds. All right, did we get all that? I think we got it. On that note, it's great to be joined by our guy, the mouth of the South, the one and only Paul Finebaum. Paul, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Paul, you might be the calm in the storm today, so I don't know what that says about how my Wednesday started, but I'm here for all of it. It's first take, baby. Paul, tell me this. Are you a fan of the new CFP model?
It's much better than it was, Molly, because we only had 4, and it's also better than the proposal, which had a disproportionate number since we lost the Pac-12. But the big controversy is Notre Dame. You heard Heather a minute ago. What if Notre Dame was number 1? Well, first of all, that's not going to happen. Marcus Freeman's a good coach, but they're not going to be number 1. But if they were, it's their own fault. Notre Dame remains an independent. For what reason? I don't know. Remember when they lived off the ACC a couple of years ago during COVID? They joined the ACC for 1 season. And by the way, they got to the playoffs as a result. So and instead of joining the ACC, which they're a member in every sport, but I think hockey and football, they said, we're too good for you guys. We're going to go it alone, even though our basketball and baseball and all those programs play. So whatever happens in Notre Dame is their own fault. This has to be unanimous. So you get all these people in the room, and they have to do some horse trading. It's not perfect, but it's much better than it was. And as far as Notre Dame, cry me a river.
I completely agree with you. I have no sympathy for Notre Dame. They think they're better than everybody. They don't want to split that NBC TV money. Let them deal with being, as you said, they're never going to be the 1 seed anyway. But if they ever are, they're going to have to play the extra game. That's tough on them. I have no issues with it whatsoever. You and I are in agreement. I like the idea that they have 7 wild cards. It helps Washington State and Oregon State, the orphans of the Pac-12. It used to be 6-6. They voted for the 5-7 because that gives them the extra opportunity to get in. And I think the one interesting thing is, and I'll let Stevie A here right after I mention this, December 20th is going to be the first round, and that's going to be on campus sites. Now, remember, there's no students. They're all going home for Christmas. And it'd be interesting to see if those first-round games, which could be rematches of SEC games in a regular season, if they have a lot of juice to them with fans and everything else, because it actually could be this year, for instance, it would have been Penn State or Ohio State. We saw that game. Ohio State killed them. And with Ole Miss and Georgia, we saw that game, and Georgia killed them. So you'll wonder if they get into that situation, if that could cause a problem. But the big issue, as Paul said, is Notre Dame. No problem with it whatsoever. Stevie?
You know, it's interesting. Nobody has said this, so I will. I'm listening to 2 renowned pundits and what have you, and your reputation speak for yourselves. They precede y'all. This is the #1 show in the morning, 12 years and counting, by the way. I'd just like to ask you both, albeit rhetorical, I'd just like to throw out this question. You talk about you have no sympathy for Notre Dame. Why are they even relevant? Can somebody answer that question for me? The Notre Dame Fighting Irish in college football has not won a championship since 1988, when they won in the Fiesta Bowl. I think it was against West Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, if my math is correct, that's 36 years without a national championship. I know they went to a national championship game. I remember when Brian Kelly was coaching them and he took them to the national championship game against Alabama. What happened in that game, Paul? What happened in that game? They got bum rushed so badly.
Beat down.
We don't. They got annihilated, okay? I mean, Brian Kelly was probably planning his exit from Notre Dame at that moment, okay? This is an annihilation that took place. They have not won a national championship game since 1980. They have not won a national title since 1988. That is 36 years. 36 years ago, Dougie, I was graduating from high school, had an afro. Hairline was 2 feet forward, okay? Are you ready for this, Dougie? You had just started with Mike Francesa on the Fan in New York City. That's how long ago that was. That last time these brothers was relevant. And everybody walk around like Notre Dame. Don't get me wrong. I root for the brother coaching them now. I'm not rooting against them. The Fighting Irish is the Fighting Irish. I've been there. It's a prestigious university. I get it. The Golics of the world and everybody love themselves some Notre Dame, and they should. Please don't get me wrong. But what the hell have they done? We're on national television. Georgia just missed out on the playoffs, and they were the reigning two-time defending national champions. We mentioned Notre Dame more than them. LSU got Brian Kelly. The man came from Notre Dame to LSU, okay? All right, LSU, they won national titles in recent memories. We saw what Joe Burrow, all right, and Jamar Chase and them brothers did, okay? But we still mention Notre Dame more than that, even though that was before Brian Kelly got there. Everywhere you look, we're talking Notre Dame. You got them on national television. Has anybody questioned NBC as to why you gave them this television deal? What have they done? What have they done? I'm still waiting. I thought we were about, don't get me wrong, I understand you win more than you lose, and I get all of that in a winning record, but that's when we talk about the elite, the creme de la creme of college football, we talk Nick Saban. We talked Kirby Smart. We talked about Dabo when he had Deshaun Watson and lost in the national championship game and came back and won a national championship. Okay, we talk about that. We talk about Trevor Lawrence going up against LSU in the national championship game. We talked about a lot of things. But for some reason, Notre Dame, who hasn't won squat, manages to infiltrate the conversations. I need an explanation. Why? Why?
I don't plan my Saturdays around watching Notre Dame and Purdue or Notre Dame and Air Force. I think about Georgia. I think about Alabama. I think about Southern Cal, Ohio State. But it's the media's fault. Walk down the hallway wherever you are, and I think that's where the answer is, because somebody in the media, somebody that wears those silk suits and the fancy ties, still think Notre Dame is relevant.
Well, I think there's a couple things. First off, they have the best history of any university in college. Newt Rockne, win one for the Gipper. I mean, the Golden Dome, touchdown Jesus, Joe Montana. I mean, that does carry a little weight. That's number one. Number two, I mean, they get great TV ratings. I mean, ESPN, when they're playing at Duke, they can't wait to put them on at 7:30 at night as the headline game. So when the other networks besides NBC get a chance to televise Notre Dame on the road, they run and televise them. I mean, the Clemson game, McDonough this year with McElroy was at Clemson. Clemson had a bad year. Notre Dame, Duke, Herb Street and Fowler are at Notre Dame and Duke. So, I mean, they have a cachet that is hard to replace. And remember, listen, I don't like them either. I'm with you 100%. To me, they think they're better than everybody. It drives me crazy. And I had a daughter who went there. But Notre Dame represents to a lot of Roman Catholics, Notre Dame on Saturday afternoons, Notre Dame football, that's who they want to watch.
Listen,
Subway alumni all over America, that carries a lot of weight.
Well, let me say this. The matriarch of television, of sports television, the one and only Hannah Storm, has religiously reminded me about the huge fan base, the international fan base, and of course they bring ratings, and I get that. Are we sure those ratings are better than Alabama? We sure?
They're not.
They're not.
No.
They're not. I don't know if they were better than Georgia over the last few years. I don't know if they were better than Ohio State or Michigan over the last few years. I understand they get ratings, but are we not? There is no question, because it sickens me to acknowledge it, but there is no question that is the case with the Dallas Cowboys by a mile. That's not the case with Notre Dame. Okay, I know they get ratings, but they ain't number one. I mean, all I'm saying is, damn, since 1988, how many times have the rules changed since 1988? I mean, damn, they've modified it in such a way you would think they would have found a way to win something. I don't hate on Notre Dame. I'm not here to castigate them on anything. I'm just saying, why is this? Who are these people? We got a 12-team playoff coming up, the 5+7 model, and the number one story that peels from that is a team that ain't won since I graduated from high school. That's the number one team that we gonna talk about when we talk about the playoffs. Something wrong with this picture. Something wrong with this picture. We got to stop. And then you, of all people, doggy, you think you're slick. That was just an excuse for you to bring up Newt Rockney. That's all you wanted to do, okay? That's all you want to do. Let me let the world know about that. But you know as well as I do, when you're doing radio, how often have you talked about Notre Dame? You know good and damn well you ain't have much to say about Notre Dame in recent memory. Mouth of the South, Paul Finebaum, I know you did it because they ain't going to let you do that down there because they know how irrelevant they are compared to the big picture. I mean, come on.
They lost a lot of luster, but it's still a brand.
It's got to stop.
Steve.
Win something. Win something.
Paul, thank you so much. Just say a small prayer for me. It's only 10:42.
Give me something.